Podesai and Sato have taken our second victory royale of Heat 1, which means we'll see them in next weekend's grand finals. Right now, though, let's take a look at the duos who are currently in contention for qualifying through consistency. And Shark and Teeny, they have had two top twos back-to-back. Losing a 2v1 versus Podesai has got to hurt. But if you look at the points, I mean, this is their game to lose right now, Takata.
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back end games, back-to-back second places. To be fair, it could be worse. I mean, there are 10 duos that are qualifying through consistency, and they're getting the practice in. They're getting the experience. They're getting the feel of some of these lobbies back in Major 2. I mean, it was funny. The stat that popped up, too, not only in their first game of Heat 1 and Major 1 did they get second place to Thomas HD, but also Thomas won. So a lot of deja vu going around, but this time around they broke that deja vu, getting second again. Mini, are they gonna make it a three-piece or what?
Well, we will see. I mean, they played that endgame really well, though. I was really impressed with how they took height off of Syaz and Scary. They understood that that was the time. Of course, Syaz and Scary were a little bit static. They almost gave the indication, the little signal that they were running low on those builds, and they took that opportunity so well. And even when Shark and Teeny were on height as a duo, Teeny was just jumping in boxes. We saw it just there in the highlights as well. These guys just have so much ability in this duo to either one of them find those frags, find those refreshes at any given moment. Although they didn't win that game, of course, they're going to be playing in the next game, essentially the future games as well. They're definitely a team that pretty much surely have already qualified through, but I'm excited about that because the way that they're playing these end games is second to none.
Well, you can see Pablo and Chino, they're in fourth there. They've only gone down 2 places after taking 17th in game number 2, Mini Minor. But this is a team that is picking up elimination after elimination, and it's an insurance policy for them.
Yeah, not as good of a game from these guys as we saw in game number 1. Hopefully they can continue to have more games like that game 1 than this one. But we saw them again on these sort of mid-ground layers, and it sort of brings me back to the beginning of last Major. They didn't actually come into the Major finals and into the Major overall in that great form. They weren't looking that great overall as a team. And then it came to the Major finals and they absolutely popped off. So when I saw that first game from them, I was like, ooh, maybe they've actually sort of shaken that off a little bit and they've come into this Major really on fire. But then that game makes me think, oh, maybe they do still have that bad game in them as well. So be interested to see how they develop throughout today and, of course, the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just thinking back to Pablo and Chino overall. From 24 to 25, they didn't have high expectations. After 2025 as one of the best, some of the best players in the world, expectations for 2026 were really high. But now it's Summit. They got 14, kind of mid-end of the leaderboard. Now Major 2, they're looking quite strong. I mean, despite that match that didn't go too well, they're still at the top end. So hopefully they can kind of pull through and show what they're truly capable of.
I don't think anyone would underestimate these guys. I'd say they're the second best fully Danish duo, right? If they're following up after Sky and Scroll, the most consistent duo probably in FNCS right now. Let's talk about Cami and Hari, though, because that was an interesting one for Hari, clutching his way solo through multiple zones, Mini Minor.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about Cami at the beginning of the show and how sort of experienced as a veteran he is. And there was, of course, a reason that he picked up Hari here for duos after playing in trios. And it's for moments like these. This is exactly where Hari can use that experience that he's got, but also that fragging ability to make plays in these end games. He's not afraid in these moments. You can see he's not just boxing up. He's not just trying to play out all of the materials that he has. He's actively looking for eliminations. He's actively looking for plays. Got a little bit lucky, I have to say there, that Pixie actually missed his shot because I think that could have gone the other way. But he took advantage of that, and ultimately that's what made the great players great.
100%.
Let's take a look. Oh, apologies to Carter. Sorry.
No, you can go. You can go.
It's just I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we're on page 2 of the standings now rather than page 1. So you can see that Hami and Hari there, they've gone up 10th places, so the climb is on. They'll be very happy with where they are. They're currently within contention, being within the top 15. Swizzy and Pixie, keep an eye on them as well. I think from game to game, they're going to go from strength to strength, but also Syaz and Scary. 13th at the moment to Carter, and you made a bold prediction going into the show that they would win a victory royale in game number 3. In fact, you were slightly panicked watching that last game that they were going to do it in game number 2, but obviously ran out of materials, couldn't quite pull it off against Shark and Teen's contestation.
We talked about how they like taking risks, right? How they like being confident, and they took that risk of going for heights so early on. They were on, 11 said sticks and stones, like 100 builds, all wood. And getting contested by Shark and Teeny when you got like 51 builds is not really the position you want to be in. So they did have a primed up elevation on height, but they just took it a little too early with the amount of resources they had available. So hopefully here in game 3, they can make some switch ups and try it once again.
Mini Miner, do you think that Takata's got this prediction right? Are Sias and Scary going to be taking Victory Royale in this next game?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there is a thing called Caster's Curse. It happened to 11 in that last game with Shark. Don't want to mention it too much. Hopefully, Takata hasn't actually cast a curse them, but they definitely have the potential to.
This is really interesting, isn't it? Because Levin did curse Shark, it feels like, because he was calling him a legend, and then suddenly Shark gets eliminated. They don't go on to win that game despite being in a 2v1 versus Podesai. Levin, I think you're just going to have to let Taco solo cast this one. It's game number 3.
Then again, Frankie, always have to give credit to Podesai just playing to his advantages. He knew that he had the material count to sort of delay Shark and Teeny from actually being able to approach him as quickly as they would have liked. We saw those desperate measures coming out of Shark, even with how overly aggressive he became against Podesai. But all eyes on Spain here in Game 3, Levin. Sias and Scary with the Takata guarantee, apparently. Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, what can you actually say from this position? I do feel like it might be better for the competitive integrity of this lobby if you just have to defer speaking at the start of it. I mean, that caster's curse, it is steep, and now we have to see whether or not it's going to remain exclusively on Takata here in Game 3.
Am I allowed back in? Can I speak?
I'm ready for you to tap back in, big dog.
Thank you. Look, guys, look, I can't be right all the time. You know what I mean? Like, imagine just how obnoxious that would be if everything I said was correct. Ultimately, regardless of how that game and the first game has gone for Shark and Teeny, I think what they have proved is that they are still going to be a force in this one, right? They have both shown us some highs, and yeah, there's been some lows, but ultimately, Shark and Teeny, one of the best teams. We'll see now as the lobby sort of moves forward. There are so many teams who I feel like we just haven't quite seen enough of. You know, there's a couple that comes to mind for me. I don't want to call anyone out just yet. We'll get there. Don't worry. We will start to call people out, especially in game 4 and 5. But I think this game will be a big one in terms of starting to see people pick up the pace a little bit. Kidua and Prax have been enjoying their off spawns here. And we'll see if that continues to be the case. A bit more of a split this time. Both teams going to get the chance to loot up and farm up. Not a wealth of chests available to Wurs, but they'll have to make the best of it.
Bus stop, not exactly the kind of landmark that you can afford to split evenly. These two teams are going to have to tango eventually, and Prax, Kidua, they're already trying to make sure that they come out on the winning end of it yet again. Because it's like you mentioned, Levin, these teams, they're not necessarily backs against the wall just yet here in lobby number 3, but this is technically speaking the halfway point. This is where you're really going to have to start pushing yourself across that finish line, because games 4 and 5, they just go so quickly, especially when you're in this type of position, as Kidua will be the first to fall here. Prax not able to actually make it up. The overdrive just cut short here. So Six and Wurs, they'll have their opening shot here in lobby number 3 to see just how far they can take it.
And honestly, that's what it's all about, right? The first 2 games don't quite go your way. You turn your fortunes around. And so that's the score of what? 2-1 now on the day. And now they have this game and a couple more to try and make that a 3-2 gambit. Shark getting involved in some early fighting themselves. And even with Teeny going down, they will come out on top, and so Teeny will be picked right back up as their game continues. And that's a bad spot for the rest of the lobby, quite frankly, right? If these guys are able to just have their way and pick up some early limbs, some early dam, Surge isn't going to be an issue. They can just cruise through this one.
Then again, we've seen a lot of 2s already today for Shark and Teeny.
Well,
There's
okay, yeah.
a little bit of a record here, and I don't think it's the kind of record that Shark is trying to beat with this three-peat of second placement. So
Well, that's the problem. For people who maybe aren't as tapped in, if you are newer to competitive Fortnite in 2026, before Shark became like best player in EU, one of the best in the world, you know, he was on the rise last year, and he had some struggles in FNCS, let's just say that. One of which was a last chance lobby, which we will be seeing on Monday. Or is it Monday or Tuesday? I think I got my dates wrong. It's Tuesday, right?
both of them for the players play Monday, I believe, for the openers, and then Tuesday, I want to say, for
Yes,
closure.
that's the one. That's the one. But what I'm trying to say is, last year he basically had the last chance lobby where obviously that format is you win a game and you qualify for the grand finals, and he came second in all 3 games, which, you know, wasn't great. And so, you know, he does seem to have an affinity towards second place, and hopefully you can shake that here today. Can't quite get through this window edit because of the stair, but both teams will trade reses. And I don't think it's going to matter because a third party will come in right behind. Shark is able to stay alive somehow in this situation, but I don't know if they'll actually be able to stay alive for much longer. The team that has been awfully consistent today might just be going down early here in game number 3.
Part of this, you might even say, could be a little bit of an overextension so early on by Shark and Teeny. It's almost like they're just trying to get through the game as quickly as they can afford to, heading down to Heatwave Harbor so early on. But that third party, it doesn't take long for spoilers to sort of become that thorn in the side here. Teeny, though, will be able to apply a little bit of extra damage on the way out. Granted, he received some. And knowing that Teeny and Shark are going to be able to at least reconcile with each other, but Teeny's got to be careful, was going for the shield regen, and just like that, a player lurking, crouched next to a bush, catching him completely off guard, and with Shark just so low on HP, we'll have a brief moment to heal, but these players are just quick to the jump. The moment that they spot a little bit of weakness here, they immediately try to see if they can capitalize on it fully, and if Shark goes down right here, right now, it's going to force them to have to sit and wait to see whether or not lobby number 4 will be theirs to take. But fortunately for Shark, at least, Boyaz will be forced to pull back. Another team's involvement just makes the juice not really worth the squeeze at the end of it.
What is cooking in Heatwave Harbor? It is awfully messy here so far in this game. And at this point, success for Shark will just be staying alive unscathed and having an opportunity to reboot Teeny back into the game, which, if he's patient enough, I think he will get.
See, but at the same time, Shark is like poised well enough where it's almost like he's hoping that he can find that isolated pick for a player that might just choose to try and run through the building, hunting him down. Whether or not that actually comes to fruition, though, we'll have to wait and see. The reboot onto Teeny is going to be the ultimate game plan. Right here and now is X-Force, Bevies, at Chop Shop. Fully aware of the fact that they've had to get a little involved, but still not enough pressure applied to them yet to really force them into any sort of unnecessary fighting. Likely having gotten the surge that they were already looking for, much more willing to just continue mapping things out with the rotation. They want to make sure that they are in a good spot to sort of position, box up, and wait to see what happens next.
Khan and Reason, a team that I think many people watching will want to see start to pick up the pace here a little bit. I mean, I think many people in EU have learned over the years that you just don't really want to bet against Reason's chances of making his way through to a major final. He always seems to get the job done and qualify. And Khan has all the talent in the world. So again, a team that I think the recipe is there for them to be able to make it through. It just hasn't been the best of starts to this day.
Still, if they can look to turn things around, midway point, it's always a great place to start. Swizzy Pixie, we saw a glimpse of the leaderboard just before lobby number 3 actually started off, but they are just outside, kind of hovering. Consistency, placement eras, Shark. Fortunately, we have to kind of gauge whether or not he's been successful in his hidden endeavors, and it does look like everyone else that was once so interested where Shark ended up has decided instead to take up separate positions. And it's crazy to think that 2 different duos could potentially just cut Shark off the moment that he tries to rotate out of here, but it doesn't look like he's trying to stick around. He wants to try and make his way towards reboot as quickly as possible, because the longer this drags on, the more time that he has to spend without Teeny, it's just further delay. And while they're not necessarily a team that you'd be worried about being able to rebuild Surge or positioning on, it's still just enough of a dampener to slow them down.
Yeah, it's funny because we started off, I started off talking about how with their earlier limbs, they would have had a bit more time, right? A bit more freedom, and obviously that turned on its head. So now going to be playing the game a bit more stressed, but again, for a team of their quality, we've seen them in that position, right? I've seen them have games where, you know, they've rebooted, ran all the way across the map, and they're still making waves in the end game. So wouldn't be too concerned. It'll be interesting to see where they're at when we next check in. Oh, what do we have here?
Could really go either way right now. Force wrapped in Skrill or Kiro walks. Both of these duos clearly in need of some additional points. It's less about the Surge, it's more about finding those little ways to sort of scale yourself up the leaderboard. You don't want to find yourself falling too far and away from where those placement positions actually cut off at. But Skrill and Swrapped just having a tough time finding any sort of an opening shot here onto Kiro and Walks. They're still waiting to see, but Skrill's gonna have to play for a little bit of the heal measures off the med kits. Wrapped also will take the opportunity to try and heal off the Chug Jug. But Kiro and Walks potentially even scouting out the fact that there might be an opportunity here for a third party just looming in the distance. Both of these duos bound to be punished if they continue to drag this fight any longer. So Skrill looking to get up close and personal right now with Kiro, but have to remember, where is Walks through all of this? So Skrill and Scrapped continue to attack the same line of sight. They could potentially find themselves a losing angle against Walks, who has now opted to just ramp upwards. Full oversight, and Kiro will join him. The material count just working out pretty heavily right now for Kiro and Walks. Skrill and Scrap, they're just forced to stay dwelling in these lower layers. They don't really have any kind of materials to really build their way back up, and they don't have an escape path either. Their only option now is to fight it out or hope that Kiro and Walks decide to disengage, and that seems much less likely given how much time they've invested here already. They're going to want to find a conclusion to this fight.
Yeah, I think they know they have such a big upper hand here that, again, they just have to be patient. Don't allow this to happen. And thankfully, Walks is able to just hold on by the skin of his teeth. That was the only way Straps and Skrill had a chance in that one by just jumping into the box of one of the players there, Cammy and Hari. Let's look at what Cammy's been up to so far. All right, Cammy. All right, you said Cammy can't get PC, you know?
You might be needing to switch up that role.
Yeah, man.
Cammy, IGL? I'm not sure. The G might stand for Fragger now.
It might. I mean, to be honest, after the last game Hari had, I think he deserves to keep that title. A big clutch from him when Cammy went down. the beginning of the end game, and he was able to make his way all the way through to that final moving zone, which isn't an easy thing to do. And when you're a player of Hari's quality, it's something that's always possible.
CK and Waza, though, start to make their way, create a little bit of distance, a little bit of a gap here away from where Vidil and Ju were at, kind of recognizing the fact that they were in a bit of a disadvantageous spot from the lower elevation point. And even though they've had a chance to build up on the edge of zone, you still want to try and factor in some semblance of control here, and they might not be privy to the fact that Scary and Sayaz are just underneath their cliff face. A little bit of a sneak attack coming to the mix here. Pablo, Chino continue. Try and make their way through. A lot of healing resources used off the med kits, but they still have the chug jugs. But what's really causing issues for them right now is that surge. 9 below currently. Not a spot that they can't work their way out of, but Darkos and Minori, certainly not an easy team to take the one up on. They're gonna have to work for this if they can even get the tag to begin with. You don't want to appear too desperate with how you choose to clash, because they are just close enough. Only a little bit of damage can make the difference here. Search thankfully will tick back over in their favor, but still sitting just 6 above now means that they're still gonna have to continue trying to look for those opportunities to get additional damage online. It's gonna take a bit. These end games have been relatively stacked too. That's been one of the bigger reasons why we've been seeing Surge just kind of play a part for so long into these end games.
Bit of an awkward one there. A very awkward one. A misstep that has now cost Chino his life in this game. And so for Pablo, we know he has the ability to pull off crazy solo clutches. I mean, that's not a doubt when it comes to this guy, but being so down on Surge just adds a different level of complexity to the situation that will mean that he is really forced to make something happen there. You can see him searching, looking. He can spot the weakness, but can he connect the right shots? He can't.
With only 10 in the chug jug, it was pretty much hopeless unless he could get that little bit of damage here. But Sharktini, recovery tour, going rather well off that last elimination here, and Noctini also following suit there. So a good sequence of eliminations there to kind of restart some of that elimination aggression that they'd opened up this lobby with. Still, if height has been their ultimate goal here, a team like Swizzy and Pixie are bound to sort of continue to kind of play a problem to that. But Shark and Teeny, they have definitely been getting very aggro in this lobby, just sort of scouting out every little bit of weakness. You give them an inch, they're going to take the full mile every single time. And now, Teeny and Shark, you would never think that they had that initial pause in the action early on.
These guys are cooking. It's exactly what we want to see from them. You know, I think it's best I just don't say anything more about that situation. Let's let them do the talking in game.
A little bit grim. We've seen them in worse. Teeny probably wishing that things looked a bit better here. Now it'll be exclusively Teeny. He'll opt to even fall back and just play the med kit. Unfortunately, though, this Storm just completely working against them, along with the Surge, along with the lobby and backside of zone, just proving to be very difficult to traverse when teams are already set up ahead of you. X-Force and Bevies, though, switching things up just a little bit here. Much calmer scenes for this duo, having a little bit more luxury to sort of decide where they want to try and apply some aggression.
Yeah, and these guys are a team that I think many people sort of going into this lobby, we're probably looking at as like one of those surprise teams, right? A team that might just get the correct zone pull in a game, and all of a sudden you're seeing them fighting for first place. Sias and Scary, another opportunity on height, and I think the big difference with this game versus last game is they don't have to worry about Sharkantini taking high ground off of them, and so we'll see if they can hold on to it stronger. With the trees to help them keep it, potentially, depending on where it pulls, if it keeps pulling far, might just work out for them. With all the mate. Pixie, hold on. They're looking for another limb here. Or for their first story on the game.
I think they would have found it sooner with how much damage they've seemingly been applying to the rest of this lobby. But Badil, Ju are successful. Elimination onto Alizi. Not a lot of Siphon materials left to work with though, but Swizzy and Pixie, things have just come at a bit of a cost here to actually make it towards that secondary height position of front side. Hari now looking to collect and just delivers one more elimination after the next, just continuing to buy himself time on these fickle situations, but no more builds are left in the pocket here now. Hari's going to continue having to try and fight his way through that backside zone. Swizzy, Pixie, they've managed to recover their HP department, but they still need a lot more before they'll have the real opportunity here to try and even challenge on high, and they know they just don't have enough builds to work with. They want to maintain front side, but they're going to drop the ultimate low instead, and Badil does wind up losing Ju along the way, but still maybe a brief opportunity here to try and play for the revive. Instead, he might just opt zone, pulling a little bit too quickly here, and Badil just knows not a lot of time left.
What a spot. The play from the bushes from low ground. I love what I'm seeing from Swizzy and Pixie here. Can they continue to impress us in this lobby? You'd have to think so. We've seen height change hands, and it's another situation where Sias has had to drop down and try work things out in the chaos below.
Godoy and Polo have taken full advantage of forcing Sias and Scary off of the high ground. They've got a good amount of material still left to work with. Granted, those are starting to be some difficult moments. And yeah, Scary and Sias just getting maybe a little bit too distracted by the bottom of the lobby. And so now we're forced to just wait and see who's actually going to have the advantage here. Pulling back though, Pixie, Swizzy, they've managed to manifest some big instances here on the low ground. 2 eliminations now for Pixie.
Don't drop into Pixie's box. He ain't ducking from any smoke, and Swizzy will look to join the party with him now as well. They have control, but just for a moment, they need the elim for the material, and unfortunately, that will lead to them overexpending just a tiny bit. Swizzy has some builds now just to keep himself ticking in this game. We're slowly seeing what looks like the makings here of a win for the Height team. Swizzy will do his best though to try and make something happen here. And he might just find another one if he's not careful. Both players on such low HP. And this just continues to work in the favor of Godoy. And now Swizzy, it's only a matter of time. You've got to think before they take him out. Yes, they will. Godoy will get the final bit of damage there to secure a spot in the final. And we've said it over and over again, Tackle. You're gonna see surprises here in the heat stage.
Hey, to be fair to Takada, Sias and Scary clearly had the winning recipe. It was all about the high ground, but Godoy and Polo also recognizing that fact and stealing it for themselves. So Frankie, let's hear what y'all have to say.
Godoy and Polo really oversalted what Sias and Scary were cooking, stealing the high ground and the victory royale from them, Takada.
I got good news though. Maybe I messed up the script a little bit. It wasn't Sias Scary, it was the Spanish duo that was gonna win game 3, and Godoy Polo did exactly that from 45th place. It was not looking good for them. 3 points going into this match, but they got the job done, and all you need is a win in the heats. So we'll be seeing them in the grand finals.
Yeah, very convenient that it was some sort of link there to your predictions. I can't imagine if they began with S. Yeah, they still begin with an S, so it's still right. But no, really excited for these guys, really happy. And it's just a good sort of showcase of this format and what great it can do, because this is actually the first FNCS finals for both of these players. So it's going to be really great to see a new team, a new blood inside of this FNCS Grand Final. So you just never know what to expect from these sort of teams in these lobbies. It's like you don't see them as maybe a contender when you're looking at the drop map, you're looking at the predictions from people, and it's like, yeah, you don't see them there, but then there's always one or two teams that crop up out of nowhere, and they're one of them.
Takara, what's going on with Spanish Fortnite?
Well, we'll see. All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Looking all right, but what I'm thinking is, what's going on with Reason and Con? I mean, they've had some pretty tough matches first in the play-ins. I hope they are one of the ones that are going to win these upcoming matches.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about some of these mid-table teams after the break, because they are definitely someone we should be talking about. I mean, Vidil and Ju, actually, like, when I think of Reason, obviously I always go straight to thinking of Vidil, because of the fact that these guys played together in the past, both making it to the stage at Summit as well. So there are some really interesting relationships between some of these teams. But as you can see there, Polo and Godoy on the high ground, mini minor, and this is really where the victory began.
Yeah, and even before that as well, the way that they actually took height off science
Yeah,
is scary. We
just
actually had a
sitting
really
high
nice sort of
gun
drone
is
footage shot
low
of it.
the
It
way
was in
bubble
4K,
train last
unfortunately,
season
for
so
Science
far.
is scary. The way that they actually just flew up there, hit the one pump, absolutely delightful. And for the rest of the game, they closed things out really well onto Swizzy right there, who again, those guys actually had a bit of a comeback as well. So really excited for these guys there.
Well, I'm excited for all the teams in the lobby. We've only got 2 more games left. I cannot believe it, and I want to get on with them as quickly as possible. So let's head to a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about what are the names of the lobby.